Hey guys, Jason here with the Word of the Wise. Now, looking at these abominations spoken in Matthew 24 and then comparing, the same in Daniel 11 and speaking about this, the deceptions, deceivers, he uses flatteries to coerce people, but when you're looking at after the people that do know their God will instruct many. So that will be the time where people will be saying that this is dangerous and we shouldn't be doing it, and people will be saying, oh, it's fine, we got to do this for the future, and however they're going to push all that. But then also looking at the temples, the first and second temples, when the abominations came, they were destroyed. And now when you're putting an abomination into somebody, say like the Mark, and those temples are destroyed, the people. So just kind of a couple different viewpoints here. Again, you don't really hear a lot of people talking about these kinds of ideas. So I'm just trying to, I'm not saying that this is fact. I'm just saying this is something that needs to be considered. So things can also get, very physical very quickly here in the next couple of months. So just a word to the wise, guys. Jason here with the Word of the Wise. I was in the middle of doing this video, and when I looked at the daily sacrifices taken away and then looking at the abomination that makes desolate, then you get to the timeline in chapter 12 that talks about the days, and it's over 1260 days. And if it happens sometimes in the future here, that means that it began in the first part of the tribulation, which is then the first beast time. So when you're looking at Daniel 11, from the part where it speaks about the abomination that makes desolate, you start backtracking and look at the story that it's telling, and then think about what has been happening in America and in that country, which is not easily mentioned on these platforms. And when you start looking at, say Bibi, their Prime Minister Bibi, who has had a lot of allegations and a lot of things that they've done wrong, but then look at Trump also. and look at his camp and how his people have turned on him. You know, they come to his table, but they forecast devices against him. And then later the two kings come together and they also plot, you know, wickedness. And so I think now we can look at Daniel 11 and start understanding, you know, it's talking about the daughter. You got to think about the people, you know. Leland spoke about this, where it speaks about, you know, he will not have a lust for women, but it's kind of like a what is it, like a religious sect of people in a generation or in an era. And I think that is what we need to kind of, you know, start looking at this and start backpedaling. And then you can also go into the future and you see that they are plotting this thing. And I would recommend anybody go to On Point Preparedness' channel. He put a video up on Rumble and he talks about a scenario that is building with this whole rebellion. And it comes against, you know, those who do not understand what they're doing, or those who are not fully truly with Jesus, that are doing things falsely in wickedness, and they think that they'll be doing God's work in that time and will come against the holy people. So I would recommend going to the Berean, probably the Berean Study Bible in Daniel versus the KJV. And then also going into, when you compare it to Matthew 24 and then compare it to Revelation 13 and see the wording and kind of go back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. Trump may be coming back, but if it's the abomination being set up, is it set up around the world, or is it set up in that country first, where, you know, what we cannot mention? And then the world order they want to set up, where do they want to keep, you know, have the home base for it, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So there's more here now, and I think it is opening up and coming alive much more now. You have to look at this, read it, and then compare it to the past, not say just the last 18 months, but look at the last presidency in its entirety and what was happening to Trump the entire time. So look at what it happens to these kings. And then once the abomination comes, look what happens after that. So that is a future time, but once that abomination hits, that's, you know, past into the future. But I think that it tells a story of whoever. It could be Trump, it could be Bibi, but I think it's one of those two, and then it might even have Biden in there. So just a word to the wise, look these things over. I'm going to keep looking and I'm going to keep studying it, but I think there's more here now for us to understand what is going to happen. And that's why I said also, please watch On Point Preparedness' video, because I think that is going to be very important also. He might be onto something very, very important. If this thing changes and all this mandating comes against those people that are trying to enforce it, and they get taken down, and then who rises up in its place? Taking down the obvious evil, but then setting up the false evil, you know, that is not so easily seen. So just a word to the wise, guys.